Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Doesn't Understand Outlook. This happened over a decade ago, before workplace chats were a regular thing. My boss at the time was an old-timer. I'm pretty sure he was past his retirement age. No grudge against that. He was very good at most aspects of his job, just set in his older ways. Often I would have to call a meeting with our colleagues in Japan, with him included. For various reasons, he would get upset if I scheduled these without talking to him first about his schedule, even though his calendar showed him as free. He insisted that I have to check in directly with him in his office. The problem is, he wasn't always there. So what I would do was just send him an Outlook meeting invite to just him and him alone for the time I proposed to have this meeting. It was convenient because I was already looking at his availability in Outlook. He could accept if he works, and then I could update the meeting with everyone else needed. He sees this and hollers at me to go to his office. He's a pretty big, loud dude, so everyone in my vicinity hears. He proceeds to ream me out for not doing what he asked. I'm sure he didn't understand that he was the only one on the invite, and he wasn't appearing to decline the meeting in front of anyone. I tried to explain, but he then proceeds to say under no circumstance should I book a meeting with him without chatting with him in person. Sure enough, a day or two later, a very important meeting request comes through for that afternoon with some higher ups. And he's not around for me to talk to, as it was later in the day. My manager's number 2, who heard the minor fiasco, takes me aside and says, "I know what he just yelled at you about, but I think you should just book the meeting. He didn't even need to be there. It was just proper for him to attend." Needless to say, I didn't, quoting what Bossman said. That meeting didn't happen that day. I vaguely remember him losing a few points for not being able to have this meeting. But nothing nuclear. The next story is called No Pets Policy. I work from home, and my home is a studio apartment. My workplace has a no pets policy. I thought that it would only apply to bringing pets to their office. I didn't know that it would also apply on Zoom calls when working at home. I got an official strike for breaching that policy when my dog was in the background of a Zoom call. My dog was simply sitting still in the background. The only place where I could hide my dog out of view was in the bathroom. No worries, Pete. I got a still image of dogs in a dog park and set it as my Zoom virtual background. My dog was as usual sitting behind me, but out of their view this time. The last story is called Customer Got Fired. I used to work on the retentions department of an ISP back in the day. While many people called, generally wanting to cancel their phone service, just as many knew that retentions was more than that. The ISP, let's call them Red Phone, had 2 different departments. I worked on retentions 1, where we did a lot of fixing builds and offering small discounts and slightly cheaper phones to customers who said they wanted to leave. Retentions 2 was for customers who were in the process of porting their numbers. And the worst thing they offered was a 50% discount for a couple of years with a decent phone for free. This happened roughly 12 years ago, when roaming was straight up highway robbery. Let me introduce you to the executive. I got the call, I did my little introductory spiel, and I immediately discovered this guy was the most entitled guy I'd ever had the displeasure to speak to. He said he was a very important executive who traveled a lot for work. But the bill he got was ridiculous, and I had to solve it, or he was going to cancel his service. I muted him, so he heard nothing, but I could still hear what he said. While I checked his account, I could hear him gloat to his girlfriend that he's getting the bill credited because he knows how to play the system. And he wasn't wrong. This guy was a pro at playing Red Phone. He had the highest phone plan the company offered, which was around €90 at the time for 1 line. But paid €30 per month, because he had discounts from both departments, stacked on top of each other. His plan allowed him to get what at the time was a super expensive phone for basically nothing, and retentions too. He'd gotten the super shiny customer status and the super shiny customer service line, which usually meant a customer was averaging a €300 monthly bill, despite his €30 rate, because he complained about the delocalized customer service. He was also not wrong about his bill being ridiculous. He'd visited several EU countries, got a €600 bill, called customer service, and said he had not known that roaming was so expensive. No one had warned him when he told us he was traveling overseas. The company had a policy that the first time a customer complained about something, we could refund them, particularly if the complaint was that the customer had not been informed about extra charges. So the rep informed him about roaming costs and refunded him all of the roaming charges, leaving the bill at €30. The second month comes around. He kept using the phone overseas, got a €1,500 bill. He calls customer service. They tell him they can't refund him again. He says he wants to cancel his account then, and gets transferred to me. He was demanding that we credited his roaming charges again, because if we can do it once, we can do it again. And also because roaming prices were abusive. He did also have a point there. I told him I couldn't do that, so he wanted me to open a claim and escalate it. I refused again, because there was no one to escalate to. He wasn't going to get that credited. He insisted he wasn't hanging up until I escalated the issue, because he wasn't informed. And if I kept the call going for much longer, he was going to charge the company for his time, because he was a busy man. At this point, I'd been working there long enough that if you were nice or even normal, I would try my best to help you. But if you were a jerk, sorry, can't do. Get lost. Customer refuses to hang up. I can hang up. This guy though, he'd gone past being a jerk, and I was set off. I couldn't be a jerk back, but he'd been messing around, and I could make sure he found out. So I told him that, okay, since he was so insistent, I would open a claim to refund him the €1,500 bill. I muted him while I opened the claim. He was again gloating at his girlfriend about how clever he was, because he was going to get this bill refunded too. Meanwhile, I was copy-pasting the notes from the previous month's claim, where the rep had written, "I've informed customer of roaming charges," in all the countries he told me he could be visiting. There was also a list of European countries. Also, stacking discounts is very much not a thing. He had to spam the Retentions 1 call centers with calls, until he got a newbie lost enough to apply another discount over his Retentions 2 discount. And he had not read the terms and conditions of the accounts, but I had. Trying to defraud the company was grounds for service termination. I got the claim number, flagged down my supervisor, and told her to please send it to headquarters in the daily report, so fraud could examine the account. I told the guy that the claim had been opened, but also that since it was obvious he was trying to abuse the company's policies, the claim had been flagged to be reviewed by fraud, and it was likely his account would be terminated. He went from entitled to worried in 2 seconds, and asked me to close the claim. Sorry, can't do. He wanted a claim open. Now it's open. Yes, the customer was fired. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.